Side. So it looks like Jeff is ready for to bless us his presence. Let's see. We're just gonna wait. Where is he? Here he comes. I believe so. Hey, there
Hey,
he
what's going
is.
on? How you
I'm all
doing?
right, brother. How are you?
I'm chilling, man. I'm chilling.
I'm so glad to hear it.
See
So
me all right?
I'm just introducing.
Ooh,
Yeah, I can hear you. It's a little
all right.
choppy at the moment. I'll wait for you to reconnect.
Yeah,
All right,
that should
there
be
we
good.
go. I got you. So I'm Dabe James from National Stepping Association, and we're here on behalf of the World Step Alliance. And I'm so happy to have you here.
Oh,
I can see the
did I do
connection
something? Oh, there
right
it is.
there. Okay,
Okay.
we're back. All right. All
All
right.
right.
Man, it is a pleasure to do this interview with you.
Yeah.
I've been following you for a while. I've been following the tutorials and all that kind of stuff that you've done.
Oh, very
Um,
cool.
That's great. But I'm going to give you a chance to introduce yourself to all of the people that are going to be coming in online. We've had a really good following. So go
Okay.
for it. Tell us about yourself. Talk with your name and let's just go forward.
Cool. What's going on, guys? I'm Step with Jeff. I'm a teacher in the South Bronx in New York City. Been stepping for about 15 years now, and just trying to change it up and figure out how to fuse different styles that I've learned over the last couple of years with dance and urban choreography. Um, and yeah, I guess for the rest of the interview, you'll find out more.
Oh,
Hopefully, you stick around.
absolutely. Well, um, one of the things I have been able to watch what you've been doing, and it is kind of it's definitely different. It's definitely different, and I love it. And it brings a lot of
Thanks, man.
creativity. I also, my team is actually the Vision Steppers, and we come out of the South Bronx as well. Um,
Okay, nice.
yeah. It's been our 19th year, and it's been a minute. Yeah. I'm
Yeah, man.
old now.
You've been stepping longer than a lot of people who are in this competition
That's
that have been alive.
that's the truth. But you know what? That's okay because I get to turn it over to the next
What's up,
generation.
y'all?
You know what I mean.
True.
So
Yep,
that's
that's the point. Yeah.
that is definitely all right. So, Step with Jeff, just the name itself, is that something like you just wanted to brand, or was that something that came out of the tutorials, or because that's like the brand now,
Yeah, yeah.
hey, Jeff, but
Yeah, so basically, the step team that I started on in high school was Organized Chaos out of Brooklyn Tech.
OC,
Um,
shout them
yeah,
out.
OC. Yeah, and the thing that I loved about it was that chaos was an acronym. So we found out that later on, when you joined the team, that chaos stood for crazy, hot, amazing, original steppers. And after seeing the brothers step and after seeing the combinations, I realized that the duality of the name organized chaos was just perfect. So when I went to college, I tried to make a step team there and I couldn't think of another name. So I used my high school team's name and we created sort of a bridge between between the high school and the college.
Mhm.
And then after I left, trying to brand yourself is hard because everybody wants to come up with these super invasive names and creative names and loud names. And so one thing I realized with a lot of people that I follow on social media is that the ones that I follow the most are people who aren't afraid to put their name in front of their brand. Like
Mhm.
if you're about something, if you believe in something, then you got to put your name on it. So I figured if I was going to keep it simple, something people could remember, something they could hashtag, something that they could look up, Step with Jeff was super simple. And all the words have 4 letters. There's no logo yet because I'm not super creative when it comes to artistic stuff. But Step with Jeff is easy to remember and it gets straight to the point and it kind of just shares what I want to share with everybody else.
Definitely. So, you gave me the acronym, and as long as I followed Organized Chaos, even with the bridge that you guys did in college, and with NSA, we reached out and we competed in a lot of the same stuff. And
Yeah,
what's your mission now with Step with Jeff? I
yeah,
know I see a lot of stuff with Organized Chaos, and I see
yeah.
a lot of the community stuff they do. I see the fundraisers, especially on the campus. What's with Step with Jeff? What's the mission there?
Well, so right now, I guess I consider myself mostly in training mode. It's something that I learned while being a part of the urban dance community as of late. I'm a member of Outburst, and we're an urban dance community here that's based in New York.
Hmm.
And what I learned through them was that training really builds your character, it builds your skill, it builds your foundation, it builds your understanding of the culture. And a lot of times, you know, as steppers, when we watch other people step, we can get very defensive if we feel like we've seen that combination before, or if they're using a BGLO's move and they're not you doing it correctly, or they're not representing themselves well.
Hmm.
And I think that that's something that's really held back the community for step in a way, because we protect
Really?
our steps like playbooks. You know, we protect it because we don't want people stealing. I know every stepper out there has heard, yo, I've seen that move. This person built it, this person jacked it. And it's
Right.
kind of like, it's very different in the dance community. It's very different in the sense that while there is competition, there's also a sense of, if you're about your craft, I'm going to come learn from you. I'm going to assimilate. I'm going to learn what the culture is. So through the people that I've learned in the dance community, you know, they introduced me to dancers who really study their craft and go as far back as when hip hop was created in the South Bronx.
Right.
And
Right.
so right now, what my brand is doing is I'm training, I'm learning from people, I'm studying videos, I'm studying different types of movement, I'm studying different percussion, so that when I decide to teach or when I host classes, you're not just learning combinations, you know, you're not learning really cool rhythms, you're not just learning chants, you're learning what's behind those chants, you're learning what's behind those calls, you're learning what's behind the movement. And so to me, the best thing that I can give to the community is to teach it, to give back in a way that, like, it's okay to learn from another step team. It's okay to learn their moves, and it's understood that you're using it to make yourself better. One of the things that I'm dreaming about is like the day when you go to a competition, and you know, no cap, it's not going to be between just the standard three that always win back to back to back to back. You know,
Yes.
it's
Yes.
between the top 20, it's between the top 30. Like,
Yeah.
people decide to go to competitions based on who's competing, not just going there because they know it's an easy win, or they know that they want to defend their title. You know, like, it means something to achieve in this country. And I think that that's something that is kind of cheated from us when you go up against competition that, you know, doesn't have the same history that you do, or doesn't have the same experiences that you do. You know, it's not fair. Like, why would you allow that if you can teach them? So I know that one of the great things that my team in the University of Albany, what they're doing is they give back to the community. They go downtown, they teach middle school students, they teach elementary school students. I know a lot of them have become teachers in their professional field, and then they created step teams in their schools, and they're continuing to teach and grow and manifest this idea of, like, you can take step beyond college. You can step beyond just a part-time thing. And I think that's something that this young generation can look forward to. It's like, I can get paid to step. I can get paid to do something that I love, and it's not going to end when I graduate.
And absolutely, at 100%. That is one of the. That's actually one of the paramount missions of just the world of step right now, is to let people thrive, and actually, and this World Step Alliance is to kind of let people um, know and give them a chance to thrive within. You know, there's enough room for everybody, and everybody has a particular style, a particular craft,
Yeah,
and I
for
really
sure.
like that, that you're moving forward with that. So tell me, I know you already told me, you know, you were working with, you know, you started organized chaos and with all of that. How did you get started? Where are your origins in step? Where was your first love?
So my first team that I joined was organized chaos in Brooklyn Tech. But the first time that I was introduced to body percussion was, I think, when I was in, I want to say, third or fourth grade. I went to school in Midtown, New York City,
Mm-hmm.
and I was very blessed because one of our teachers at the school was a former Alvin Ailey dancer. And so when he came to the school to become an academic teacher, he taught dance after school. So I have a very strong in like support for after school programs, because that's kind of where I started. He taught us gumbo dance. Um, he taught us he taught us some of the chants back then. He taught us some of the combinations, the standard combinations that you see a lot of gumbo dancers use. And then I didn't see it for the rest of middle school. And when I got to high
Really?
school, yeah, when I got to high school, I saw the step team, and it clicked something in my head, and so I joined. Um,
Mm.
Partly also because there was somebody who was like, I think you look cute stepping, and when you're in high school and somebody says you're gonna look good or something, you're kind of like, okay, let me go and
That's
see what
all
you're
you
talking
got.
about.
Don't tell me twice.
Yeah, yeah,
That's a thing. No, that's actually really great. So well, I guess the big question now, like with everything being changed, with everything changing, what have you been doing now in this virtual, world? I mean, I've been doing with my team. We've done some virtual practices. You've seen that. We've
yeah.
done other things. What are you doing now to kind of keep your chops up? I see again. I see on the page. I see different stuff. But what are
Yeah.
you doing? What are you doing? What's OC doing, for example, with to, because we are going to come out of this,
Oh yeah,
and
for
you're
sure.
going to know who was really pushing during. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So talk to me about that. Like, are you doing anything in particular?
So for the most part, I'm putting a lot of the step with Jeff aside because I'm spending a lot of time with my students.
Hmm.
I FaceTime them a lot. We check up on their grades. We check up on make sure that they're still involved. Because if it's hard for us as adults, for sure that kids are not with this, especially my seniors. They're robbed of their senior traditions and that feeling of saying I graduated and I left a mark on my school. So one of the things that it's benefited was that while I'm looking for content for my kids to look at, it's giving me just as much time to train myself to look for strong content. I think that a lot of the time when a team or when an artist is so focused on building yourself, you forget that uh, artists use muses. We use things to inspire us, and we also have to remember that you have to have time to give back. So I'm using a lot of this time to look for things that I can reshare or things that I can repost, and then find some time in the day to go somewhere and just try it out. So like certain movement styles. I just started watching this guy who is using something to the equivalent of Filipino Kali sticks, and he
Mm.
uses it in self-defense. But I've also seen somebody who uses martial arts as an inspiration for their dance. So trying to incorporate that through stepping and through movement is something that you're definitely going to see in a couple of weeks, I guess, when we have um, new time to share our craft. Everybody's going to come out hungry, but how many people are really going to come out to eat? There's a big
Right,
difference
right,
between saying you're hungry and then actually eating.
right.
So we're going to see that.
To your point, sometimes if you haven't eaten in a
Hey,
while, you
Ali.
sit down and eat a big meal, you're going to get sick because you're not going to be ready.
Yeah,
You
for
that's
sure.
and I definitely understand your point. I'm a technology director. I teach as well in the South
Nice.
Bronx. Deal with all of that, and we
Yeah,
do have time with our kids. So I thank you as a co-teacher, as a fellow teacher,
yeah, man. Thank you too,
for all your efforts in doing that because that's
for sure.
really, really, it's been a Herculean task.
Yeah, man. Happy Teachers Appreciation Week. That's
Hey,
this week.
thank you as well. To
Thank
you
you.
as
Thanks,
uh,
man.
to your point, a few minutes ago, you talked about the content that you are discovering.
Yeah.
Who are your kind of inspirations in, let's say, the step world? Do you have anybody who you
Oh,
say, "Oh, I like"?
I got plenty, man. I got plenty. I mean, I have to start with some of my alumni from Organized Chaos. Anthony Cannonier, France Cardi. They created a team called Havoc Squared. They were on YouTube and they were on the scene for a long time doing YouTube tutorials. They were doing combinations that I had never seen before. They experimented with music early on. They got to perform in a lot of places, which showed me like, oh, this guy took steps seriously after high school. Maybe that's something I could do. And then
Mm-hmm.
when I got to college, I met people from Step Africa. I met people from Soul Steps, which was based out in Massachusetts.
Mm-hmm.
I saw teams competing down south. I saw the California Step Association on the West Coast. I saw how it was different for Southern Greek organizations to step compared to Northern Greek organizations. I saw the different styles from the
Yeah.
Divine Nine. I can go on, man. There are so many places where if you just look and you kind of just set yourself back, you can realize how much you can learn. A lot of times when you're like, I know because you go from being this young person to being the adult, to being the
Mm-hmm.
educator, the educated to the educator, and you
Mm-hmm.
realize that one of the reasons that young people are taught to be so bold is because a lot of times we get put down. Young people get
Mm-hmm.
put down all the time. They say you can't do this, you can't do that. So there has to be a teacher who says, now you can do this. Now you're the best. Now nobody can stop you. So that you build that in yourself.
Agreed.
But then when
Agreed.
you get to be older, you realize you also sort of got to remind that student, like, hey, you could be you are the greatest, but the greatest continue to learn. The greatest continue to find other people to learn from, to keep growing. One of the oldest sayings is grow old or die. And a lot of times, if you say you're the greatest, it prevents you from being great. And I think
Hmm.
that one of the things that I learned over the years is the best place to be is in your mind is second, because there's always somebody there that you're going to try and beat, and it requires you to just push a little more. And
Hmm.
really, the greats, they don't even talk about how great they are because they let other people do it and then they just fan that flame just a little bit. But everybody I know that's successful in their field, they are still grinding. They are still elevating their craft. Even if it's not within themselves, they're elevating their brand. Michael Jordan, after he left, because The Last Dance is hot right now. After he left, or while he was a basketball player, he was building a brand. He's still doing that. And because of that model, a lot of sports players decided to follow his lead. LeBron James, Allen Iverson, Carmelo Anthony, Patrick Ewing, they all started to create their own shoe label, their own brands to try and emulate or duplicate what Jordan did with his brand. He created a label that will stand beyond it. And then on top of that, he built something for other people to look up to. Kobe did the same thing with his Mamba mentality, with his sports center. So that's something that's important. Step Africa does that. They have some of the greatest steppers in the world, and they don't claim that they're the best. They just continue to teach and educate, and they let their presence, they let their performances speak for themselves. So that's an example of that. You don't want to be able to say you're great. I think that the best educators don't say they're great educators. The best educators say, I teach. I
Right.
teach because I must. I teach because I can. I teach because I will.
Right.
And so I
Right.
think that that's important. You have to understand that your time at a point comes to an end for you personally, but your legacy doesn't end if you continue to foster growth in other people. So
That
the goal with Step with Jeff is that as my ability to step or my skills or my timing or all that stuff declines, the things that I know don't die. The things that I can teach people don't leave. They get stronger, and the craft and the traditions itself, they get stronger. Somebody asked me the other day, is stepping dance, is strolling and stepping the same thing? And I told them, I didn't get mad. I would have gotten mad like 10 years ago, but
mhm,
at
mhm.
this point I was like, no, there's a difference. Let me tell you what the difference is. And he was like, yo, I appreciate the knowledge.
That having that teachable moment is
Yeah.
always um and I agree with you 100% when it comes to the legacy. The legacy is everything.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, after we finish doing what we're doing, being able to look back and being able to have, which I know you've had, your students come back to you, whether it be your classroom students or your steppers or whomever, having them being able to start their own teams in college or come
Oh
back to,
man,
and
that
they're
would be
doing
something. Yeah.
that's really something else. So I want to segue into from that. Um, how do you feel now? And I'm going to start getting into really briefly the this particular competition. Having all this exposure, seeing what we're doing, what everybody's been doing. How do you feel about competing now with teams from Thailand and Peru and West Africa and obviously here? And uh, I'll let you go ahead. I was going to continue the question, but go ahead. How are you feeling about that?
I think it's cool. I think it's just one of those things where you don't realize just how much somebody has reached until you see the response. And
Hmm.
I know the first time somebody overseas reached out to me and said, "Hey, I think your stuff is dope," and they reshared it, I was like, "Oh man, your boys in Spain, your boys in Thailand, like this is cool." I had somebody from Mexico hit me up and share it. I was like, "Oh, your boys in Mexico now!" Like, I think
Right.
it's awesome. I think it's also one of those things where it's going to breed more competition. More people are going to want to do this. More people are going to want to demonstrate and share their craft. And in a time where it's really easy to blame this person or that person for misfortune, I think it's a nice break from that to say, hey, you can still build towards something. Excuse me.
Hmm.
Um, I'm more concerned with competing against these young cats because they got moves, man. They got those extensions, they have those blades, they have the hype, and they have the ferocity, and they don't realize that their knees gonna pop out in like 25, 30 years. So they're just like, yeah, we're just gonna go for it.
Woo! You been talking about it.
So
Yeah.
it's really cool, man.
No. So Okay, so let's go.
Hey, Mace.
Let's go into that. So your routine. I watched what you submitted,
Hmm.
and love it. Absolutely love it. But one of the things that struck me was that it was short. It was really short.
Ah, yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
is that does that like kind of raise your you got that much confidence that you want to say, hey, listen, this is what I'm putting here on the floor, take it, it's all here, or was that just that was what you want, you intentionally did it that way? Tell me about that.
So I picked that piece because um, it was one of those pieces that really represented what I thought like explained all of my skill set or most of my skill set.
Interesting.
I
Okay.
think that if you see a blade, you know what a blade looks like. If you see a
Hmm.
polyrhythm, you know what a polyrhythm looks like. If you hear stomping intensity and you see attitude, you know what it looks like. You don't
Hmm.
need a thousand analogies. And my my students, some of them here in the chat, they'll tell you like in order to sell a point across, sometimes I'll give them 1,000 different metaphors, and they'll be like, "Yo, coach, I got it. Like, shut up. I know what you mean." So I
Hmm.
figured with this piece, especially realizing that there's like 34 performances that the judges have to watch, that I can make the strongest statement by making the strongest statement. I can say what I do, what I represent, and it's not for me. It's not as much about competition as it is explaining what Step with Jeff is. You know, there's a lot of I know a lot of teams that sometimes be in the heat of wanting to place, you cater yourself to a score sheet, and for the most part, we didn't really know what that score sheet is or who the judges are or how they're going to weigh it. So I was just like, you know what? Let me go for it. Let me just present something that I'm extremely proud of that I'll put behind Step with Jeff. Because you know, as a stepper, you have so many steps that sound really cool, and then when you see it, you're like, oh, that doesn't exactly have it, or look really cool, but then you listen to it and it doesn't make sense. It was also super inspired by when Beyonce did Coachella, and when I saw that, it brought me
Hmm.
back to college. It brought me back to seeing what pride could really be when in the presence of people who support you and love you and understand your culture. So seeing that and seeing how she did it, you know, listening to that song and seeing how other people stepped, it was like, you know what, let me see if I can tweak or if I can incorporate myself into it. And I imagined if I had the chance to choreograph for Beyonce or for anybody who would allow me, what could I do for them? How could I demonstrate what they were trying to say? And Beyonce, time and time again, and her choreographers and her directors, they said that this is about showing Black pride. This is showing up for HBCU culture, for
Hmm.
showing what it could really like become. And so, you know, obviously I'm not Black myself, but I want to be able to give back to a culture that gave so much to me. You know,
Hmm.
it's not about assimilating it or taking it away. It's about always trying to give back, finding a way to give back, finding a way to do that. And one of the things that, if you notice, if you go back to all my videos, I didn't really post a lot on my social media, but I don't chant. I don't chant in my videos. And
Right.
Organized Chaos will tell you we chant. Our style of stepping is like most people's. You chant first, then you step, or while you're stepping, you chant. And one of the things that I didn't want to do was be this Asian guy on Instagram stepping, trying to look Black or trying to look like he was appropriating culture. So for 2 years, I wanted just my stepping to speak for itself. I wanted the combinations to speak for themselves. I wanted people to see that it wasn't someone who not only was trained or fortunate enough to be trained in this culture, but somebody who actually learned something from this culture. So if you go back to YouTube videos, you'll see the chance. You'll see me calling out steps before we step. But with Step with Jeff, it had to be the stepping first. It really had to. Otherwise, I don't think I could have taken myself seriously. You know, how could somebody who's never met me like look there and be like, oh, he's just trying to be like a Greek person, this, that, and the third.
Right. No, no, no. Understood. Understood. You know, step as an art form really belongs to the world, at this point. And I get what you're saying. And I really respect that. And your steps, they absolutely do speak for themselves. I can appreciate that. That's
Thank
a
you.
really good thing. Um, when it comes to going back to one of the comments you made before about
Yeah.
uh, the different styles and being around. I think one of the great things here with the world of step and like the way it's going to be evolving. We all hate the fact that COVID-19 came and we're doing all this. We got to be distant and can't practice. But one of the things that's happening is through the virtual world, particularly through World of Step, we're getting a chance to, everybody's getting a chance to taste the different styles,
Yeah, for
including
sure.
including judges,
Okay.
because you're starting to see, to your point before, you might have one style in the South and one style Southwest, Northeast. So when you travel around, and I can say from from NSA, from as we do competitions around the country, one of the things is you talk to different steppers, particularly like yourself, is you always hear, "Oh man, these are Southern judges. They're not going to give us any points. They don't
Yeah,
understand this." Or, I know you heard it. You know what I mean?
yeah, of
Um,
course.
so I particularly like what I've seen with you, and even the piece that you did. Um, One of the things that struck me about that was that, yeah, to your point, yeah, it's 30 seconds, and you know what a blade looks like, point blank, period. You know what X, Y, and Z looks like, and you're not chanting it like that, and that's fine because you remove that element. So
Yeah.
that's good. And like I said, the 30 the brevity of it was what struck me.
Yeah,
And
30 seconds. I
right,
realized because, coming from Step World, we have 14-minute shows.
right, right. And
Yeah.
to your point, it actually accomplished what you wanted in that, and so that's
Thank you.
that's a big deal right now. So in that routine, was there any particular thing that was like is there any meaning or anything that's the most powerful moment in it? I know you were trying to show all that you were and just bring it to the floor, so to speak, the virtual
Yeah.
floor. Is there any other real significance behind it, to it, any moment in that 30 seconds, that
Um, yeah, I think my favorite moment from that was really that opener, that first polyrhythm that I got to into the
Mhm.
hold, because it's just one of those things where and again, it comes with experience, and sometimes it doesn't even. When that singer hits that first note, when that basketball player hits that first dunk, you see
Yeah,
that first pass, you see that first stomp, you just know, man, you just know, like,
yeah,
that. Okay, this is gonna be something, and I
yeah.
think that for me was the challenge too, because sometimes for a lot of steps they start strong, they fall down, they
Hmm.
kind of pick back up,
And then, yeah,
and my challenge was, yep,
yeah,
and after a while people use the calls to breathe. You're at attention for a while and you're like, okay, keep talking because we need a moment to breathe. And I just wanted it to be catered for a virtual audience to be like, I'm going to watch this. I'm going to see this. Now, I thought about doing a full production, like the full 5 minute, like, let me tell a storyline.
mhm.
But that's something that I'm also hoping to save for later when I can incorporate more of my friends and peers that I've met who step, so that we can do it properly. I didn't want to rush it. I didn't want to reveal the line to the film itself, or to
Mhm,
figure it
mhm.
out. But essentially, it's an introduction to who I am for this competition, because
Mhm.
again, it is also one competition that's going to foster more interest. And I didn't want to overwhelm people with, like, okay, we're over this. I wanted people to watch it and be like, oh, no, 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 we got to see more. We got to see more. So hopefully
And-
that accomplishes
and-
that too. Yeah.
Yeah, and to your point, with it being that way, and it was short, people go, I know, I teach myself, wait, I gotta watch that again, and you kind of go,
Yeah.
you got a full 10-minute show, you're like, all right, we got it.
Right. Like,
No,
I'm hoping that people watched it, and by the time they were done rewatching it, it had been 5 minutes. So if you watched it more than once, you watched me step for a while. You watched me. You saw it. You saw it
that
happen.
that's cool. That's cool. Okay, so tell everybody how they can get in touch with you, or how they can vote for you. You give me shout out your IG handle,
Okay.
shout out all of that right now.
All right. Yo, what's going on, guys? This is Step with Jeff again. If you're interested in my video, go check out World of Step. Scroll down, find Step with Jeff, watch the video. Make sure you watch others. But after you see it all and you feel like, I was the one doing it for y'all, vote for me. Click vote, and then stop over my Instagram, Step with Jeff, and see more content. Hopefully, y'all are staying safe and are healthy, getting your homework done, especially for those of you that got homework. And just, be healthy, so that when we come out of this, we can all step together. You don't just have to step with Jeff; you can step with everyone.
That's it. That's it. And speaking of stepping with everyone, with World of Step, that's what we're trying to do right now, virtually, and everything else. We're stepping with everyone virtually. Um, I want to thank. I'm gonna use your brand name. I want to thank Step with Jeff for his time. I really appreciate you, brother. I appreciate what you do. I appreciate your art form, and what you're putting up there. And I remind everyone else that's out here, go check it out. There's still time to enter. If you at certain routines, go worldofstep.com. Please go vote, 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 vote. And I'd like to thank Jeff. I don't know. I can't tell. Are you frozen? Or yeah, I think his video did freeze. I want to thank you guys for watching. You've been with another edition of WS World of Step Backstage. We've been with Step with Jeff, moving and doing big things. I appreciate all of you. Shout out to all the competition. Shout out to the entire World of Step Alliance. That's NSA, Artist Stepping, and obviously and NSA. So keep watching. Keep watching. It's been a long road. You're going to see a lot of big things happening. Jeff, I don't know if you can still hear me, but it's frozen. But I thank you, brother. And I will talk to you soon, and I will see everybody else soon. Thanks, everyone.